Welcome to the Black Voice Hertfordshire Community Meeting. Our speakers tonight are Michelle Scott Akanbi, Sam Makende and Sonia Carr. To find out more about the Black Voice Hertfordshire Community Meeting, please view the chat now. To note our house rules, please view the chat now. Speakers, collaborations, volunteers, we need you. Email us at blackvoiceletchworth@gmail.com. To find out more about Black Voice Letchworth, please view the chat now. Our two main aims are to fundraise for the UK's first Black History Museum, Library and School of Cultural and Creative Arts and to support the Black community. Please note our socials in the chat now. Our online services include Kids Gaming Group, BVL Radio Show, Funky Ma, our parent and child fitness class, Mama Sugar Shakes, our 0 to 5 preschool programme, the Black History School, mental health support, legal advice support, the Accountability Dossier, the Alkebulan Festival, Hate Crime Reporting Centre, Employment Support, Computer and Internet Support, the BVL Magazine, Short Films and Documentaries, Online courses, private function entertainment, online Saturday events monthly. Please note our donation information in the chat. Save the date. Friday the 27th of August is the next Black Voice Hertfordshire Community Meeting. Working together for change. Our Black Voice Letchworth team welcomes you and we hope you enjoy the meeting tonight. Thank you.
Good evening everyone and welcome to the monthly Black Voice Hertfordshire Community Meeting for July. Today's meeting will be slightly different for those of you who have attended previously. Firstly, Michaela, the founder of BVL, will be taking more of a back seat in this meeting as she is extremely busy. Also, we usually have 4 speakers, however, today we have 1. This does mean that there will be lots of time to ask our speaker questions and start any conversations that you would like to raise today. We are very grateful to be welcoming Michelle Scott Akanbi to this meeting, who will be delivering a talk about Black parents and what is termed special educational needs. Before we begin, here are our house rules. Please remain muted at all times apart from when you're contributing. Please use the virtual Zoom hands up button to give notification that you would like to contribute or write your question/comment in the chat box. Due to the specific nature of this space, please refrain from using any and all known and unknown ethnic group acronyms and words. Please wait for a contribution to end before you contribute. Raised voices over a contribution are not permitted. Please do not swear or use foul language. And please place all contact information, events, projects of your organisation, etc. that you wish to share in the chat box. Black Voice Letchworth is on many social media platforms. Please come and connect with us. We are on Facebook, Tumblr, Pinterest, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn under the name Black Voice Letchworth, on Snapchat and Twitter with the username @BlackVoiceL, and we have a website at www.blackvoiceletchworth.com. Our contact number is 07581 720032, and our emails are blackvoiceletchworth@gmail.com and bvlinquiries@gmail.com. All of the places where you can find us online will be posted into the chat. A link to a form where you can provide feedback about Black Voice Hertfordshire community meetings will also be in the chat. If you don't receive our reminder email to Black Voice Hertfordshire or the minutes and recordings of these meetings, please feel free to use the other link in the chat to tell us your email address. This is not mandatory, but there are quite a few people who attend that we don't know how to contact. If you would like to donate, our PayPal is blackvoicelecturers@gmail.com, and our fundraiser is at blackvoicelecturers, www.blackvoicelecturers.com, but this information is also in the chat. Additionally, a link to a fundraiser will be posted into the chat for a young boy named Joshua Caleb who has ASD, ADHD and anxiety and who needs funds for a tribunal as he currently has no secondary school to go to that will support him appropriately. Thank you. I will now hand over to Michelle.
Sorry, I did not unmute myself. I do apologize about that. Hi, I'm Michelle. So I'm just going to briefly talk with you today about supporting a young person with what we generally refer to as SEN, special educational needs and disabilities. But one of the things I'm going to do today is actually reframe that. So within the SEN community of late, many people refer to it as neurodivergence. So rather than saying SEN, they often use the term neurodivergence. So we're just going to use that term today as we speak. And neurodivergence just kind of refers to disabilities that are neurological. So it refers to disabilities such as dyslexia, autism, ADHD, oppositional defiance disorder, pathological demand avoidance, OCD, etc. So we're going to use that term. So that's a new term if no one's heard it before, neurodivergence, which is a term we use more. So as Amy said, there will be a link in the chat to a GoFundMe campaign, which is actually for my son, Joshua Caleb, that I'll be talking a little bit about today. So I'm not really sure how much you all know about neurodivergence and how that impacts young people in education, but I'll just sort of give you a little bit of our story. So I have two boys. One is 11, which is Joshua, and my younger child is 8, which is Micah. They are both neurodivergent. But when it comes to Joshua, his needs are referred to as complex because he has autism, ADHD, and anxiety. He has attended a mainstream school throughout his entire primary school. And we have never had an education healthcare plan for him. So let me give you a little bit of the background. When Joshua was around 2.5, I had suspicions that he might have autism because I used to be a psychology lecturer and I taught on autism. And I mentioned it to the health visitor at the time. But back then, which was like about 9 years ago, there was a lot of stereotypes about what autism was or what it wasn't. And one of the perceptions was that autistic young people couldn't, they couldn't socially interact with others. So they didn't maintain eye contact. And one of the things that Joshua did do very well was maintain eye contact. So I was sort of kind of just brushed off on him. It's like, no. Your son is not autistic. He maintains eye contact very well. But obviously that wasn't the correct information. So long story short, everyone was saying to me, Michelle, you're seeing things that are not there. Yes, he's a little bit delayed in his speech. Yes, he's a little bit delayed in his walking. And he didn't call me mum until he was like 2.5 years old. But honestly, Michelle, there's nothing wrong. He's just developing it at his own pace. He'll be fine. So I sort of accepted what I was told, as a young mum. He's my oldest child. So, I was like, okay, maybe even though this sounds or feels like autism, let's accept what others are saying and, just get on with raising him. So Joshua went off to school, and when he went into nursery, reception, everything was fine. He loved school. But then when he went into year 1, we had a lot of changes. And some of the things that we saw is that he kind of regressed. So by this time, he was now dry in the day. He wasn't dry at night until he was about 9. He was dry in the day. And what we saw was that he started wetting himself in the daytime when he was awake. We saw withdrawal and all kind of different symptoms. So I did a little bit of Google research, as we do, and it sort of highlighted Asperger's or autism. And I went back to the school that he was in at that point, and I made the point that, something's wrong. Josh's behavior's changed. We think he could have Asperger's. And basically, long story short, the education system, the headmaster of the school kind of just sort of dismissed my thoughts and said, no, he can't be autistic. I've seen many autistic people before. He doesn't display as an autistic young person. He can't be autistic. Now, I have an educational background. As I said to you previously, I taught psychology. And one of the things I know is that when you've seen one autistic person, you've seen one autistic person. It is a spectrum. And I know we have things like atypical and the good doctor, but not every autistic person is going to reflect what you might see in some of these dramas, because it is a spectrum. And whilst there are things that overlap with like the communication skills, there are so many things that make them very different that they might manifest it in a different way. And that doesn't mean that your child is not autistic because they're not atypical in their representation. So long story short, the school would not write us a letter, because the way that it works is that if you have concerns that your child might have autism or ADHD, you need to show that in one or two situations or circumstances, such as school, home, church, other social environments, they're displaying this, what they call the triad of impairment. So long story short, we still insisted, the doctor said he needed a letter. We started to look for another school. Eventually, the school did write the letter, but it took 3 months for them to write this letter. And we ultimately moved Joshua to another school. And when they did write the letter, the headmaster was like, I hope you're happy now. You've got the letter you want, but I really don't think he's got what you think. And obviously that was not the case. So we went off to a different school. They were very aware that we were waiting for a diagnosis, and there was some level of support. But one of the things that is a main factor for young people, especially in Hertfordshire, waiting for a diagnosis of autism or ADHD, is that it's quite a lengthy process. So while Joshua was 5, almost 6, when we began this process, he did not receive his diagnosis till about 7, almost 8. He would have been 8 that year. So it took over 2 years of waiting for Joshua to get the diagnosis. And that is quite typical out here in Hertfordshire. If you have if you've got a sibling who already has it. So my younger son has ADHD. His diagnosis did not take as long because Joshua was already known to the services, and the school was much quicker at writing me a letter. So I got all of that kind of towards the end of reception, the beginning of year 1 for my younger child. So so as I said, it was a 2-year waiting process. And back even then, in infants, we did look and we did work and we did speak to the school about getting Joshua an education healthcare plan. And I'll just explain what that is. So in the past, that would have been referred to as a statement. And what an education healthcare plan and what a statement does, it just kind of lists the young person's disabilities, it lists their struggles, it explains ways in which the educational environment should support this child. And it also offers educational provision. So you have different sections, and the child also has a voice within that. So whilst we did try in infants, in both year 1 and year 2, for Joshua to get an education healthcare plan, we were told by the school, no, we're supporting him really well. You don't need an education healthcare plan unless our support is not effective. Also, he hasn't got a diagnosis yet. And when he goes into juniors, it will be a similar situation. So long story short, when we went into juniors, anxiety developed. So when he was an infant, he just had autism and ADHD. Again, the autism was diagnosed at 7. The ADHD was diagnosed at, I think, about 8, 8.5. But the anxiety developed basically as a result of being in an education system that wasn't equipped to serve his needs. So that really happened, as I said, in junior school. And for the past 4 years, we have been fighting for an education healthcare plan for Joshua. But we were told by Hertfordshire that Joshua was not failing sufficiently enough to need an education healthcare plan. And they argued he needed to be 2 years behind. The challenge with that is that legally, what they're saying is actually illegal. And if you look at SEN law, which is something I've become very familiar with, it doesn't say that. It just says, as long as the child may have a need, that they should be supported. And as I said, so we had 2 requests to assess for an education healthcare plan. Both of those were rejected. And in the interim of all of this happening, both my mother and my father also passed away, which also impacted on Joshua's mental health and made him quite suicidal at times. We're at a place now where we're on an even keel, and he's not having those thoughts. He's not having that conversation. He's not talking about wanting to go to heaven, but it's been a long journey. And one of the things I wanted to speak to you about today when it comes to neurodivergence is that, sorry, my throat's a bit dry. In the Black community, often people have an assumption when you say, oh, my child's got autism or my child's got ADHD, that this is not a real thing. Yeah. So how do I explain this? So you will have a lot of debates. So I've had a lot of debates, particularly on Facebook, with other people that have no experience of young people with neurodivergence. So when you say, oh, I've got a child that's on the spectrum, or I've got a child that's got ADHD or anxiety, you're met with unbelief. They believe that I don't know if they believe that you're making it up, but very much they deny that this neurodivergence exists. And they believe that, they just want to give you drugs. That's the first thing that's been said. And I know when I was speaking to Michaela, one of the things I was saying to her was that as a Black parent or children who are neurodivergent living in Hertfordshire, you often feel like a minority of a minority of a minority, if that makes sense. Because obviously, as a Black person living in Hertfordshire, you're in a minority. As a Black person with having special educational needs or neurodivergent children, you're in a minority. And when you put it all together, it makes it even more of a case of minority. So you often feel that you are not heard. And although it's not specific just to the Black community, it kind of becomes exacerbated, because one of the things I've learned through being a mother of children with neurodivergence is that we do need a village. It does take a village to raise a child, and you do need a support network. And I found that for many people like myself who are also Black, we don't have that support network because there's such disbelief. That's how we're met when we share, our stories and we share experiences that, we have children with these needs and these are the challenges. So for instance, some of the challenges that we have is that before my parents passed away, we couldn't go to our parents at Christmas because there was too many people, too much happening, and it was just like a sensory overload for the children, particularly for my eldest. So what we would have to do is to go to family before Christmas or after Christmas, because then the kids would cope. And one of the challenges was that your family, because they don't understand what the disability is and how it impacts the child or impacts you as the family, they feel, oh, you're just snubbing us. And it's not that at all, but it's because you're very aware that too many people, too many noise, too many everything just creates sensory overload for your neurodivergent child, will lead to a meltdown, which in our community is often seen as bad behavior, and it just escalate and make the situation worse. So one of the things that I have learned as a neurodivergent parent is that it's very much about developing adaptations for your children and like supporting them so that they can ultimately support themselves and accommodating for them. And I think one of the issues in our community, it's almost felt that it shouldn't be accommodating. They should be able to just get on with it. They should be able to adapt. And the truth of the matter is, whilst for some neurodivergence, they may be able to do that, such as dyslexics, autism in particular find it quite challenging to adapt in those ways. They very much need structure and routine. They need things to very much be similar and the same and in a routine that they're comfortable with. And if they're not comfortable with that, then you will see those sensory overloads and the meltdowns. And really the meltdown isn't about bad behavior at all. It isn't about, a tantrum. It's very much that in that situation, the child is not able to cope because too much is kind of happening at once and the child is just struggling to cope. So, I do want to talk about the tribunal in a minute, but I just wanted to go back to how it impacts as a Black family. And the point I was trying to make was that I often feel that because much of the people I meet when I go to autism mum organizations or attend training or social or support groups, etc., they're all generally, white middle-class women. And I think, the issue, and I was speaking to Michaela about this, is that, as a Black woman raising Black sons, there is an issue, cultural issues there and ethnic issues that aren't really being touched on. And whilst in a group, I might say, oh, as a Black person, these are some of the challenges that I have. you know, often the other parents will say, oh, it's still the same even in the white community. And I really think it isn't, because I think often in Black communities, particularly faith-based, we don't feel comfortable in saying, oh, my child has a neurodivergence, my child is autistic, or my child has ADHD or dyslexia or anxiety or anything else. And I remember years ago being asked by a family member, or the point being made that, you know, about me praying, had I prayed enough, you know, and this whole idea that because you have faith, that should be the answer to everything. And if your child has this issue, then maybe, you know, you haven't enacted your faith. And that doesn't help when just being a parent of a neurodivergent child is hard enough for them to feel that your faith is being questioned because your child still has this disability. And as far as that person watching you or seeing you is concerned, if you've been praying, they wouldn't have it anymore. I'm not sure if it makes sense what I'm saying, but that's some of the challenges that I faced. So our current challenge, as you know, Amy said at the beginning, is that, you know, Joshua is now 11, he'll be 12 in this October. He's just finished year 6, so he's finished primary school, but unlike his peers, he has no secondary school to go to. The secondary school that was named was not appropriate, and they said that they were worried that if he went to their school that they would exacerbate his mental health, and they just didn't think he would cope because it's a 1,300 strong school with 11 lessons a day, I think, something like that. Okay, so, you know, the secondary school just felt they couldn't support his needs, but Hertfordshire felt they could. But so I had to instruct a solicitor, and he wrote them a letter which is called a pre-action letter. And because they got that letter, they then withdrew on that school. But the school that we've requested is a specialist independent school. It's a small school. You know, there's 6 kids in a class. It's a low arousal school, which just means there aren't bright pictures on the wall. There's no loud noise. Everything's very structured. Everything's very quiet. You know, there's 2 teaching assistants in addition to the teacher in the classrooms. They have an option of doing GCSE when they get to year 10 and 11, but they also have the options of things like occupational therapy, speech and language therapy, speech and language therapy, and also educational psychologists on site. So one of the things that we see with young people who are neurodivergent, particularly young people with autism, whilst they're able to speak, technically, they may lack communication skills. So they're not always able to express or articulate how they feel. And I particularly see that with my oldest child. So one of the hopes is why we want him to go to the school that we've picked, which is a school in Enfield, is because we know that on site they will have speech and language therapy, which he's never received. Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying, he's never received speech and language therapy. And because he's verbal, there's the perception that he doesn't need it, but he does. Because if you said to Josh, you know, how was school today? You would just get fine. You would get nothing else. But if you gave him a series of prompts or probes, or you said, so did you have maths or English at school today? Then you might get, I had maths. And then if you know what topics he's studying, you might say, did you do algebra or, did you do algebra or standard deviations? Mean not that they do that in year 7. Then he would give you an answer. But if you don't give him those kind of prompts or probes, you get very little information. And for me as a mum, I'm very concerned about my 11-year-old who's very vulnerable. He's really like about 8 or 7 in his mental capacity, because I have 2 of them and I see them playing together. Going into a mainstream, massive secondary school, not being supported, and not being able to articulate when he encounters challenges without, you know, I'm really quite worried. I'm even more worried now that he's got no school at all. But, you know, I have this campaign that's out there to help us so that we can go through the system and really, you know, hold Hertfordshire to account. Because whilst my story, you know, obviously is painful for me, I'm not the only parent of a neurodivergent child who cannot get a secondary school place for their child because Hertfordshire does not want to name it. You know, we have something in Hertfordshire called a SEND crisis, where we have like a lot, because it's such a big borough, a big county. We have a lot of young people who are neurodivergent that need specialist education, but they're not being offered it because it costs money, and Hertfordshire are reluctant to pay that. So that's kind of my story. So right now I'm very happy to take questions because I feel like I'm waffling a little bit. So if you have any questions about what I'm talking about or the appeal or anything else, please ask away.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm seeing that there are questions already coming in. I did say at the beginning that we've only got one speaker, Michelle. That was really good, thank you. So good that I forgot to write minutes. But I just wanted to give a few updates that I didn't give at the start. We always wait to do questions at the end, but you are the only speaker, so but we do actually have Sonia and Sam, I believe, are going to be giving some contributions as well. So just firstly, some updates. The GoFundMe for Michelle's son, I have put in the chat. I'm going to put it in the chat again in a minute. Also, BVL, we are running in partnership with Koi Koi in Letchworth, a football supporting communities event. The poster was attached in the email, the reminder email for this meeting, but there are more details on our Facebook page. We're also looking for a few different things at the moment. So I'm just going to get that up now. Yeah, so we're going to be doing an art display in Black History Month, and we're looking for children and young people to create art pieces relating to Black history to be shown in an art display in October this year, and we welcome any form of art into the display. So if you want to send us pieces of art for that, just contact us on our emails, which are in the chat. We're also looking for presenters for our online media presence. So if you're interested in that, once again, please contact us in the emails. And we're also looking for young writers because BVR is creating a magazine. So once again, get in contact if your child is the right fit for that. We also have a fundraiser, a food fundraiser that will be taking place on the 29th of August 2021. So look out on our Facebook page for more. I think Sonia, is that Sonia? No, who is it? Oh, it's Michelle, has the mic off, it's okay. So yeah, Sonia does have her hand up though, so I will now head over to Sonia.
Hello, Michelle, what you have spoken about breaks my heart as a mother and a grandmother. And I'm going to ask you to ask Michaela for my number, okay? And I will refer you to a colleague of mine who's a child psychologist who will help you. And I will refer you to a report myself and my colleague wrote about dyslexia perception and the BAME community. I'm sorry to use that acronym, Michaela, but that's how it was titled in the report, and it's been cited by other academics. Okay, so please get in touch with me. Okay, and it breaks my heart. And if you look at the author director Steve McQueen, he did a program called Special Needs, and that is still happening today. And that was from the 60s and 70s. And we're in 2021 and it still happens. And my advice to you is to fight for your child, which is what you're doing. Okay, fight and fight and fight. And I've sent you a private message. Okay, please listen or look at it. Okay, and ask Michaela for my number and we'll speak shortly. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Sonia, did you have a talk or a contribution to give today?
Well, to be truthful, my talk and my contribution was going to be similar to what Michelle has been talking about, because that is the work that I'm dealing with. I work with children who have been labelled, okay, and what I have found, they are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, and they've been racially abused at school. And I, first of all, have to fight to have these statements taken away, because sometimes they're trying to put a round peg in a square hole, and you and I know it's not going to work. And when I go into the school, the first thing I ask them is, when I look around the school, I ask them, can they not have any more diverse pictures? Because the school zone isn't welcoming. And you look at I always go by the school's pictures on the wall and their annual report. Is there anybody that looks like me in there? Because that will determine how we're going to speak to the chair, the head teacher, and the various leads in the school. And I say to any parent out here whose children are facing this, make friends with the teacher. And Michelle has said the school is not suitable for her child. She is in her right to choose a school that is suitable for her child. Don't let anybody fob you to say you cannot. You can. It's your right. Okay, and if it's out of catchment, what you must do is get your child an EHCP plan. Okay, and I know it's not an easy road or easy journey, because you first of all got to convince the relevant departments that your child is in need. And that's why I said, get your teacher to be a friend, is on your side. Okay. So, so my work, and one of the works I work with my children, I call it Healing Starts, the Healing Diary. And I always say to my children, the pen is mightier than the sword. I buy them pens and crayons of every color and descriptions, and I give them a journal. And I say to them, this is your journal, your diary. You can write what you want in there. You can do pictures, you can do whatever you want. And if you want to share it with mom, dad, your brothers and sisters, or if you want to share a tiny bit with me, you can. But it's your diary, your journal. And then sometimes it can take up to 3-4 months before the child can even open the page. But I play it at their pace. And I look at the drawings, and in the beginning, they're dark, the browns and blacks, and just scribble. Then when we're 6 months to 8 months, the pictures become lighter. And then I realize then healing starts, and we can then engage with the child, finding out what they like, what they want. Because not everybody's going to be a brain surgeon.
Definitely.
Okay, yeah. Not everybody's going to be a brain surgeon. So we need to work. I didn't get your son's name, sorry.
Joshua.
We didn't get, so we need to find out what is his Joshua wants to be. Because today, I've been watching the Olympics. I'm one of those armchair athletes, I'm sorry. And I see how many of the athletes are quitting because of mental health.
Yeah.
And then today, Ben Stokes, a cricketer, he's taken a sabbatical from cricket, but to deal with his mental health. What is happening to our children? What is happening? And this is what my work, my healing diary, we stop it before it starts. We're preventative. And that's very important, preventative. And I use that word. And what I encourage my children to do is to draw. Okay, draw and draw and draw. Whatever they draw. And we go to museums. I love museums. Okay. And I always say a museum is without a wall. You can go to the park, that can be a museum. You can draw a tree, draw a flower. You don't have to physically go to the Victoria and Albert. I always say to them, a museum without a wall, because anywhere can be a museum, even your bedroom. It's what your mind and what you create. And that is what I instill, boys and girls. Okay. I don't tend to get them to listen to garage or any music like that, because I think the wording there is too dark. We want to encourage dialogue. And when I say encourage dialogue, we do it through art therapy.
Yeah.
And another world it's doing, it's called the World Diary. And I use wallpaper for this, and I turn it over. So you've got the blanks side of the wallpaper and encourage them to draw, because then you can analyze what is affecting, what is hurting you, the children. And that's sometimes you can pick up a lot. And I always have pens. I go to the local scrap store. I don't buy anything. My mantra is recycle, reuse, readore. My scrap store gets materials that have been donated from cigarette factories, WH Smith, and I'm a true Womble. I recycle. Okay, so in my car you'll find pens of every description and paper. I love coloured paper. I must be a magpie because I like anything sparkly. Makende knows it. And this is what I encourage the children. Art therapy, because a lot can be done with that. And this is what I encourage. And then the music I do, the stories I like the Nancy stories. I do the Nancy stories. And I always, one of the things I always encourage the children to do is to be proud of their cultural heritage.
Definitely.
And what I say to my children, I'm Black and I'm British and I'm proud, except for when Usain Bolt's running, but hey. Okay. I kind of, yeah, the flag's different colour, but that makes that, like it's made you laugh, it makes the children laugh, and it takes them out of that pain. Because I find as young as these children are, they're suffering, and it's painful. And I just think, when did childhood become such a painful time? I mean, when I was at school, the only thing you had to worry about is when your next meal was coming. Now children are worried about have the latest mobile phone, the latest this and latest. And I think, really, for me, as long as my mobile phone works, is all I need. And then I forget to charge it. I'm not bothered, because, and that's what the pressure these children are on. And Simone Biles, okay, but Ben's the cricketer. She's not the only one. Today I saw a young lady on the trampoline. It's 5 years of hard work, and she made one fatal mistake, and that's her time in the Olympics over. And we don't want that mental health for our children. And as a mother myself, Michelle, I say fight for your right, fight for your child, okay? And I know you show him you love him, but surround him with even more love. Demonstrate it more, okay? And this is what I say to these children, okay? I always say that I'm like Marmite. You either love me or you hate me, okay? And I go to the schools and we talk, we engage. And I always say to them, I am your critical friend, because I will look at your policies and procedures. And if I don't think it's fair, I'm going to tell you. But at the same time, I'm here for that child, because I want that child time at school to be the happiest time in their life. And that is so important, because when I was a child, I loved school. I loved English literature and English language. Oh, I loved it. And I just think to myself, what's happened? I'm a child of the 60s, but I only say I'm 21. But I think to these children, what's happened, from the 60s to the noughties? Why these children are so pained? And then I think we as parents have got to go back. We've got to capture our children back, because they've been taken away from us. And when I say been taken away from us, they're taken away by the surrounding, the trappings of what everybody thinks is good. I mean, anybody talks about the Kardashians, but I can say I've never watched a program, and I never will. Okay, and that's what children aspire to be. And you look at these images, they're airbrushed, but children don't realize that. And this is why I say capture your child, bring him back. Okay, it's a journey, and it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a child. And my last words to you: love, love, and love. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia, for that beautiful message. Sam, do you have a contribution? You're on mute, Sam. Oh.
Yes. I have a contribution. I need to share my screen though.
Kayla, do you have that ability to let Sam share a screen? Yeah, you should be able to do it now.
Okay, we've been talking about museum, and it's really interesting that I've brought museum work here. But it's not a museum per se, because David Michelangelo's work is not in a museum, it's in a church. And the drum is out of the place that is supposed to really be, as you will find when I start to talk. And then the third one, it's an art that was made by somebody who is finishing at a college of education, but based on similar story. So let us just look at it. I mean, how many people have seen Michelangelo's David before, or the picture of it, I should say? If you've not been to Italy, you might not have seen it. How many people?
I have.
Okay, cool. That's really good. And you've been to museum, so no wonder. Any other?
I love my museums. I love.
Yeah, I have.
You have to. That's really good. So, what do you think about Michelangelo's David?
It's a beautiful piece of art.
It's a beautiful piece of art. That's really cool. Okay. And when you look at it, where do you think it came from?
Africa. It is from Africa.
Okay, that's good.
The build of the body. Look at the build of the body. It is not a European.
Okay.
I'm not looking at the anatomical. I'm just looking at the stature of his chest.
I'm not saying that.
I just thought I'd say that.
I didn't say anything about.
No, sorry, guys. I'm an artist. You see, my MA's in design.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to make so many contributions tonight, then, because I'm going to take you to task on that.
Oh.
So if we look at it, I mean, you will find that, I mean, it's a masterpiece. Yeah, that's how it's been described. But it was made with marble. Okay. And what happened was that Michelangelo and other artists went to the Carrara sort of marble sort of quarry, and everybody had taken the most beautiful part of the marbles. So when he got there, this was a misshapen marble, sort of rejected. And Michelle, and I would like you to take some point from that we could take something that has been rejected and make something of beauty out of it.
Yes.
Okay. So that everybody, I mean, all the artists rejected this piece, the marble rather, but Michelangelo took that marble and turned it into this masterpiece. Okay. And you will see the connection to that story when I get to the third one. Let me just go to the second one. And when people say that, what do you think that they say? Who's the museum person, please?
Sonia.
I'm here. I'm muting myself. It's a woman carrying water.
Okay.
It's a woman carrying.
No, the first one.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I was going for the side. Right. This piece it's supposed to be an Aztec. Am I correct? An Aztec Indian.
Okay. Okay.
It's an Aztec Indian.
Okay. What made you to say that?
We discussed it some years ago in art, and they said it was it's a drum. We know it's a drum, and it's a protector.
Okay.
It's they called it a winged protector, and it's an Aztec Indian, and it was supposed to be the ideal woman.
Okay.
That's how we interpret it, because beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, and this image here is supposed to be the ideal woman, what woman was supposed to have looked like at that time.
Which one? Is it the first one or the third one?
No, the first one.
The first one, okay.
Yes.
So what else could you say? So sorry that I'm more or less.
I see the drum.
Yeah.
I see somebody deep in thought.
Okay.
Somebody taking the knee. Okay.
Yeah.
And I would say this is a spiritual piece of art.
Okay, you are correct with that.
Yeah, it's a spiritual piece of art. It's it's what they called a protector. Like you have gargoyles and grotesques. Everybody thinks they're evil, but gargoyles and grotesques are winged protectors, warding off evil, and that's what this is. Okay.
Now, I'm going to explain it to you.
And, I won't talk to you ever again, Sam.
Let's take the first one. I mean, you are correct to say that it's a spiritual sort of piece of work. It is it's meant to be the drum that we use in Yoruba land for the Osun festival. Osun is a river. Okay, and that river is meant to be about, which you are almost correct there, because the image of that that they use for that festival is of a lady with about 18 breasts, and because it's meant to be for fertility. All right, and then when you look at this, the drum, and I mean, it's made of afara wood, and afara wood is something that is common, that people sometimes even do not consider it as expensive, because everybody could just have it behind their house, and then they use it for firewood. Okay. But what I just want us to take out of this also, just like Michelangelo's David, this piece was made by Buraima. And Buraima was a sort of a local artist in Oshogbo. Oshogbo is in the western part of Nigeria. And that's where I was born. Although I'm from 31 miles away north of Oshogbo. So, and during that festival, that's when I got this drum. And I just said that Buraima should make me one that really is based on the place where I was born. And he made it for me. And if you look at it, I mean, we were talking about it being a protector. It's Iluode. Iluode means the drum of the drum of the warrior, and you can see it there. You will see they depicted that with gun, although we do not have gun per se being used. I mean, as in, like in America, but there is gun during the festival. And it's really to herald people in, to bring people into the village, because when you hear the gun, you know that the festival has started. And then you have the Ikere, that's which is usually from the horn. You can see it in the horn here. That's the horn, and in the Ikere means that you use that Ikere to say something, and if you say anything with it in your mouth, it means that it has to be. And for the other to use that means that whatever he says has to be carried out. And as such, is something that is really spiritual for the people. And the third one, okay, what would you like to say, Sonia, about that?
She's a young virginal woman. She's carrying water.
Okay.
And we know she's a young virginal woman because the length of her skirt.
Yeah.
Okay. She's showing her breast, so we know that it's used as a tool to attract the opposite sex. So this is basically like a marriage proposal, saying she's out here she is. So basically, it's like a calling card. That is my interpretation. Hope I'm right. Well, at least I've got eight out of 10 of the other ones right. That's how I think about it.
Okay. That's fine.
Hopefully I'm right.
Okay. You are correct about it being a young girl. So that's really superb. But it's not just a young girl. This Omidan carries the calabash carrier for the Oshun festival. This was actually made by me. Okay, it was a piece that I did when I was just finishing my BEd in Nigeria. And that's also a wood that was thrown away on the building site in the campus. I saw it, and I mean, that's the actual shape of the wood. I didn't alter the shape. The only thing that I altered is the inside by putting what is from my village on it, because this is depicts the young girl, the calabash carrier, that's the calabash on her head, wood that goes with this drum, because the calabash carrier will carry that calabash to the riverside. And when she does that, then it's believed that there is a fish that will put some water, that will come out of the river and put some water in that calabash. And anybody that drinks from that calabash will become pregnant. It's usually people that have not had any child, that have been barren. And as such, they go to that river thinking that, and some people do become pregnant. So I do not believe in it. So let me say that. But there are some people that believe in it, and according to their faith, it's done for them. Okay? So, but I'm talking about the art now, not about the spiritual element behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And if you look at the three, this is in a church. This is belongs to the Oshun festival, Oshun worshippers, but this was based on Oshun, although I do not worship Oshun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that, and this got me A when I was at the uni, and to get A is really is because when I brought the interpretation and everything, the lecturer was really pleased with it, that I was able to take something from that has just been thrown away, but I've been able to create something that is really meaningful, not just to me, but to the people of Oshogbo. Because if I show this to anybody in Oshogbo, they know immediately of what I'm showing to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So that, now people will appreciate Michelangelo's David.
But it's unfinished though. It's an unfinished. It's by the Impressionists. It's an unfinished work of art. He never finished it.
But have I finished this?
True. You're an Impressionist artist, mate. Excuse me, unfinished work of art.
Okay, but if you then look at this, let me go to this, then you will see how you could make use of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
That's my grandchild. And what is happening there is that they asked me to come to their school. So I taught them some Yoruba song And then I then played the drum with the whole class. They all came one by one to play that drum. Because when you have something like that in Nigeria, it's not just a piece of art. It's something that belongs to the community, and the community then come to make use of it. And as such, when I took it to that school, I had to explain that to them. So I invited them to come and sort of play on the drum with me. So I will stop there, because really that's so that it's not just a piece of art or a piece of drum, it's part of a presentation.
Yeah.
And that presentation will go with the clothes that have been worn, we go with the music, we go with the drum, and we go with even the dance. Okay, so that I will stop there now. If people have questions, please.
What I said before, it takes a village to raise a child. Yeah. And that's a perfect image of that.
Yes.
Perfect image of a village to raise a child. Because there you are, you're representing the village, the Yoruba tribe.
Yeah.
There you are.
And let me just come to that very word that you used, tribe. Mm-hmm. Okay, Yoruba people, I mean, for example, do we call Finnish tribe or Yorkshire tribe or London tribe? Cockney tribe? We don't. Okay, it's a derogatory word that Europeans use to describe the language, because the people speaking Yoruba in Nigeria were about 50 million. And Finnish in Finland is just 2-point-something million. And yet we say Finnish language. We do not say Finnish tribe. So I'm not sort of, I mean, when people have said tribe, I just say, okay, thank you. Because I don't explain it, but I just want us to really come to say something. I mean, we're here to learn from one another. And that's why I raised it up, so that it's something that we could really talk about. Because, I mean, for example, like this drum, it will not be called a sculpture. If I take it to the museum, they will just say, oh, wood carving. Okay, which is another word, which is a derogatory word, because then from the wood carving, they will then say the religion that is being portrayed is sort of a fetish. And
the V&A would accept it for what it is, a work of art. They have a wonderful African section.
Yeah, they have it, but they've taken it out of context. It's really part of what I'm saying here tonight. Mm-hmm. Because when you look at the Oni of Ife, the bronze head is part of the burial. So they've taken it out of it and they've put it on a display in a museum. It's not supposed to be. I mean, Oni is one of the rulers in Yoruba land. And when you take that, and putting it on it's as if they're impaling the head rather than really celebrating it, because it's a celebration. When people die in my part of Nigeria, it's a celebration, especially if they are older people. If it's a young person, they will just bury the person without the celebration. But for an older person, they believe that we just have to celebrate it.
Very important. That is very important. And I'm old school. I want the full celebration. I want the full celebration when it's my turn. I've told my family I want the full, and I want the drums too.
Okay, I will come and play.
I want the drums. Yeah, and I am from the Bengi tribe. I want my drums. I will. Yes, I do. It is very important, culturally and spiritually, to be buried properly. And that's for me. I'm old school. The new younger children we have to educate, but I'm old school. And that is how I believe.
Good.
And
good,
then
good.
if you feel that the V&A is not representing the African culture, then I encourage you to go to the curator of the African exhibit. And
I used to run workshops for them at Museum of Mankind and the British Museum in Russell Street. Because my mom, I mean, Great Russell Street, the big museum just on the street there. My mom taught me how to do tie and dye, which we call adire. And I mean, when I was running it, I used sort of the indigo, the sort of proper dyes that we use in Nigeria. I brought it from Nigeria and used it. So it was really something that, I mean, I was educating. The reason why I stopped was because when people take my heart or the things that are really spiritual and to the Oshogbo people, and they start to use it in a non-spiritual way, it doesn't make sense to me. So I said, forget it. That's not the way we do it.
Okay, that's, but we can only but try.
Yeah.
And I've always said to the people, young people I work with, Caesar was ambitious. So they have to be ambitious. And my other mantra, like I said before, the pen is mightier than the sword.
Yes, you are correct.
So I do that through, I don't do drumming, but we do arts, and we do tie dyeing, but I use vegetables.
But and each of the tie has a special name.
Yes.
And the special name is really what I was teaching them also.
Oh, that's brilliant. I need to go back and have a look more. I need to go and have a look symbolically to see what tie dyeing means. That's really interesting, Sam. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna stop talking to them. That's it. No more.
Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that Sam is going to be running Yoruba language courses for we've got I think 3 different age groups in August. So more information about that will be on our pages soon. Does anyone else have any questions or anything they want to say? Oh, Michaela, you unmuted your mic and then muted it again. Do you want to say anything?
I do want to say something, but I'm trying to, just stay in the background more and do the bits. I have so many questions. Firstly, I want to just thank all of you for your contributions, because tonight I've just been really, I didn't know that. I've learned so much, and just want to thank all of you. Michelle, I just wanted to find out, with regards to the process that you explained about you noticing that your child needed more support, did you find any barriers due to his ethnicity or due to him being Black that slowed the process down? Do you think race was a factor in the process of him being diagnosed? It's probably what I'm trying to say. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, Michelle. I do that all the time. It's fine.
Sorry. I was saying yes. So I don't know if you remember at the beginning of the story, I explained that we were at a different school, and the head teacher was trying to say, no, he's not got autism. So at that school, one of the reasons why he had regressed to wetting himself in the daytime is because he was actually being bullied. But he didn't actually have the language skills or the communication skills at 5, almost 6, to explain to us, oh, this child's bullying me. So he was acting, and that's one of the things you see with autism, that when you see certain behaviors, it isn't that the child is naughty or the child is bad or whatever you want to call it. They actually are in distress or something is upsetting them. They don't have the language skills to explain that to an adult. So they then behave in certain ways. one of the things I remember seeing is that when I wrote to the head to say, this and this is happening, and we're really concerned, and can you write this letter, blah blah blah. He wrote one of the letters back, and he said, oh, he's high spirit. Basically, he labeled the child, and he projected onto Joshua. He kind of said, Joshua's high spirited. Joshua plays with this boy. But Joshua should know not to play with this boy and stay away from this boy, rather than allowing this boy to bullying him. So obviously, at this point, Joshua's 5/6. Obviously, we didn't know that he we didn't know that he was autistic at that time. But literally, if you read the letter, the way that they described Joshua was not Joshua. So people often assume when you say your child has ADHD, that your child is troublemaker or bullies others. Joshua does not reflect that. His ADHD is basically about his inability to stay still or pay attention. So he'll move around the classroom, he touches stuff, and literally in his primary school, he would just walk around the class, which you can't really do in a mainstream setting. Just walk around the class, and that basically acts as a form of self-stimming or self-soothing or self-regulation or whatever you want to call it. But when this head wrote the letter, it was literally like he had seen a black boy and this labeled him black boy, therefore must be aggressive, must be loud, must be this, must be that. And all the things he was talking about, Josh, was not the case. So I would definitely agree that when it comes to special educational needs or neurodivergence or whatever you want to call it, and your children, when they are black, they're black boys in particular, it is very stigmatizing. And as obviously I have a younger child who has ADHD and who has been labeled in that way. And the interesting thing about my younger child, he's very vocal. So he's not, Josh is very passive, kind of lets life happen. My younger child is like literally black power, even though he's only 8. And we saw the same thing where, he's very articulate, he's very intelligent. He wouldn't be allowed to answer questions in class because they were kind of like, no, we can't, because we have to ask the other kids that don't know the answer. And he sort of came to me and said, Mum, this is not fair. They're not allowing me to answer questions. I want to go to a school that are supportive. So I would definitely agree that, I would say not even just race and gender come together to play, because they have a certain perception of young black boys. And if they have special educational needs, it's almost exacerbated. And I definitely think that, these do play a role. I'm not saying that if he was a white boy, it would have taken it, exactly the same or exactly less. But I know another parent who has a white son, and her child was he was diagnosed before he started school. Do you know what I mean? It took us 2 years, 3 years if you include the ADHD. And if we're thinking about it, it's taking us really 4 to 6 is just to get the education healthcare plan. And now we do have it. So just so Sonia knows, we do have an education healthcare plan, but it's got no school named on it. Didn't know they could do that. It's just blank. Type of school.
That's illegal.
Yeah, that's what they've done. They've got type of school, mainstream, secondary, and the school.
Illegal.
It's been left blank.
It's illegal.
That's why we enlisted this list. That's what they've done. So they've given us a plan.
We'll talk Monday. And also for me, what I have found stigmatizing and fits their narrative, because they're pushing the BME young men and women into the criminal justice system.
Yeah. Because we know already, don't we? Yeah, about the schools to prison pipeline, don't we? Yeah.
Let's talk real here. Why are they doing this? We don't know. We're not in everybody's heads, but there does seem to be a certain push towards something. And from just on this journey with BVL, I've just noticed that the powers that be, the people with the power to change what we're talking about today and within these meetings, they don't do anything unless it benefits them, right? It just seems to be those in power will be willing to help you, will be willing to give money, willing to listen to you and give aid if it benefits them. So if they got an extra 50 quid for every child that they diagnose, with a supportive need, yeah, great. It's great. But if they lose money or don't get anything from it, I'm just talking in the remit of the schools, they're kind of, I can't be bothered with this paperwork and whatever. what I don't know if it's paperwork, that's what's kind of stopping these headmasters or teachers from kind of really listening to parents. I just, like Sonia just made a comment and said that is because they want to push them into, you know, the basically in the prison system. With us, with Black people being in the prison system, I'd really like to look at how us being pushed into that system benefits the system. Because there must be a reason why there's a push towards one area.
I mean, I would say a couple of things. I'm not sure if it fully answers your question. I would say if you looked at the prison statistics, and I think you put that on your page today, you would see a disproportionate amount of young people or people in prison system that are neurodivergent, but maybe have never been diagnosed. We do have a very clear link between neurodivergence and mental health. So for many young people who are neurodivergent and have not had the support, it has exacerbated and led to mental health issues, particularly as teenagers. And we see it, you know, organizations like CAMS being very ineffective at supporting their needs and preventing them going off in that direction. So there is a relationship between neurodivergence and ending up in the prison system, because especially with the ADHD, because they often have what we call low impulse control. And if they haven't been taught how to develop the impulse control, don't do what you just first came into your head. Don't just react, because actually if you do that, that's not going to benefit you. Close the door. And also, even though we see a link between people, my background is criminology as well. And even though we see a link between neurodivergent people ending up in the criminal justice system, it is not a mitigating circumstance. No young person can say, or old person can say, I've got ADHD, I have low impulse control, I fully didn't understand that I was committing an offense because my brain blocked. Can't use it. Even though there's a connection, can't use it. And that's why we see those correlations. The other factor is this. With SEND register, so if you believe a young person has SEND, they put them on a register, yeah, even though they have no EHCP. The funding comes with that, yeah. When you get an EHCP, funding comes with that. But this is the issue. There is funding there, but often the schools do not use the funding for the child in its entirety. They spread it to other things. This is a further issue. To get your child, your special educational need, neurodivergent, whatever you want to call it, ADHD, autistic, OCD, dyslexic, whatever is the disability, into a specialist independent school. Most parents that do it, as I said earlier, are white middle class women that are willing to fight the system. They have the funds to go to the appeals. But you know what? When we go to the appeals, 92% of parents that go to appeals win. But the reality is most Black parents, I'm not going to say BME, most Black parents or non-white parents don't have 12 grand, 15 grand, 10 grand lying around to go to the appeal. So there is, everywhere you look, there is a relationship, there's a correlation, and there's a pattern. And this is what I believe. I believe, you know, local authorities are stretched. We know that. But regardless of whether they are stretched, this is a real thing. These are real families that are in need. But it's basically a battle, and it's about, are you going to call their bluff? If you're going to call their bluff, then you take them to appeal, and maybe just before appeal, they will change their mind. Or maybe when you get to appeal, the appeals are independent tribunal, independent judges that make a decision with a panel. Before you get to the appeal, when you get to the appeal, they may say, yes, we agree, this is the right provision for your child. But you have to fight. And that starts from the beginning. That starts from the moment you see something different about your child, just to get the diagnosis. But the fight just continues from diagnosis to education healthcare plan, to school, to transport. The fight never ends. And I think what makes it worse is that it's such a complicated system that most people don't know what they need to do or how to do it. And we do need, one of the things I want to do, not right now, but once my child is sorted and maybe the other one, is to have a kind of almost act as a middle person. So you've got a Black person who thinks their child could be on the spectrum. They'll literally come to me and I will direct them and say, you go here for your diagnosis, you go here towards getting an education healthcare plan. You know, don't rely on the Senko, because even though they're telling you one thing, they're not going to always be there to support you. Not saying that we don't have good Senkos, we do, but sometimes they don't always have the child's interest at heart. So this is what you need to do. As their parent, you need to be their advocate. You need to keep notes on everything. You need to show every way in which the education system is not meeting your child's needs. But definitely there is a correlation between the two. It's not, you know, they're not mutually exclusive, unfortunately. There is, you know, we do see that. And that's across the board, not just people of color who end up in the prison system. It applies to the white majority as well, but there is a pattern there. And I mean, all I can say is that they're underfunded, and basically I feel that they don't particularly care.
Yeah.
You know, they don't really care. And it's basically like most people don't know exactly what they need to do. Most people don't know exactly what is available for their child. And most people don't realize that actually, 92% of people that go to tribunal win. Do you understand? Most people just think, I haven't got that kind of money. I'm not entitled to legal aid. I'm just going to give up. But what I have learned more than anything else is that I am my child's advocate, and I need to fight for him because nobody else will do it. And I have to find a way. If I haven't got the money, I have to find a way to get the money, as long as it's legal, to fight for him, because, you know, it's been going on too long. And
have you got a law center? Have you got a university near you?
Hertfordshire. It's not that near, but yeah, the one in Hertfordshire.
Okay, well,
yeah.
Hertfordshire then will have a law centre, and you can use the law centre's second and third year students. They can be your Mackenzie's friends in court. Their lecturers are the QCs and solicitors. So bear that in mind. And yes, you can be the advocate who helps. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that.
And Michelle, we would read.
Yeah.
Obviously you're focused on your on your fundraiser right now, a really important fundraiser for your son. But if and when you do want to look at that, that role as someone black parents can come to in Hertfordshire to really find out, please let us know, what platform you've created, or if you want BVL can aid in any way, because I think you've really hit on something there. I know of a lot of parents are not as open as you. You've been really open tonight, and I just want to thank you for that, because I know in my family, what you've just said would never be said out loud. If anything, if my uncle, for example, he has 3 boys, and if one of his boys went through or were exhibiting any form of whatever, it's almost as if we don't get that in the black community. It's not something black people have. Black people don't get autism. It's literally that, really, if we're honest. And then there's obviously the faith thing. There must be a spirit on him. You need to pray more. Keep praying. Or there's the finger pointing of you're not praying enough. In some sectors, all of that you've covered. And parents go through that, especially those who have parents that were born in the Caribbean, but they were raised here.
Yeah.
They kind of have the British culture of, we need to really be accommodating and listen to, little Teddy and find out exactly what he needs. It's not, obviously the Caribbean diaspora is very different in their approaches and cultures to raising children, but generally across the board, the general consensus with black culture is, look, shut up and put up. I just feel that's what it's like. And I feel like if you have a child that's autistic and most of your social network is black, you will be fearful to say to your friend, look, I think, this might be something. Oh, no. If you do that, you'll make him soft. You need to just teach him how to behave right. Just put down and he'll be fine. I'm sure you've heard all of this before and it drives you crazy. But I'm just thinking in my own family, and I have quite a big family. It wouldn't be seen as, it wouldn't be definitely not doctor. We won't go to doctors for something like this. At best, it would be an auntie like Sonia or like Sam, who are educated. And maybe work in a certain area, and we would rather go to them for them to advise us than go to anyone. And that's that. It wouldn't be something to discuss. So I really thank you for today, and I just hope that you do start the platform so that parents can feel they have someone to talk to, because we don't have that. We don't have a hub like that in Hertfordshire. Someone can say, right, okay, this you need to go to this. Sonia's like an auntie to BVL. When we have a problem.
with all her experience, she says, right, you need to this organization, that organization. Literally for every problem I've brought up, you know, with under racism in my church or whatever, Sonia's been great. And it would just be great to just have people like Sonia, Sam, and yourself, just so Black parents have on the, you know, on the other end, because I feel like we're on our own.
I mean, I completely agree, and I do think it's the truth. I think as a Black community, we're quite what's the word, secretive about everything.
We need to take ownership. We need to take ownership, girl. Yeah,
and we're not open. But I had an untypical mother, is the best way I describe it. So my mother's passed away now, but she passed away. She was in her 80s, but you'd almost see her as a flower child, and she wasn't. She was a born again Christian, but she allowed us to talk. So she was quite open with us. She allowed us to talk. Doesn't mean she was going to do what we said, but she allowed us to at least have a choice and listen. And she listened to what we had to say. And I think being raised in that, I mean, now they would call it conscious parenting. Being raised in that way is quite challenging to go back to just being like every other Black person is, because you recognize actually there was a benefit in that openness. And I'm not saying that that's the answer to everything, but you can't kind of quelch the child, and you have to listen. And unfortunately, even though we don't want to believe that Black people have, you know, special educational needs or are neurodivergent or have mental health, we do. And the quicker that we're honest and open about it and look at how we can support ourselves and change that narrative and actually empower ourselves to get over to the other side, the better it is for us. So I think, you know, I completely agree. And I think that makes it more challenging for us, the fact that we're, like, as I said, a minority within a minority within a minority. Because the reality is, you know, until about maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago possibly, autism was seen as a white middle class disease, because the white mothers were very articulate in getting that label applied to their child. So Black people that might have had autism wouldn't have been diagnosed with it. So, you know, I do agree, and I do pray that there will be a change, you know, in our culture, in the narrative surrounding autistic young people, because, you know, they have a lot to offer, and they shouldn't feel, you know, they already feel excluded from wider society. They shouldn't feel excluded from their subculture as well as Black people, because they're seen as too odd or too quirky or too different, you know. And I'm sure that there's a lot of older generation of Black people that would also be on the spectrum. I mean, I'm so convinced, my dad has passed away as well, but I'm very convinced he was autistic, because so many little things he does now, it makes sense when I look at my boys, but he would never have known, because, you know, again, he was a little bit younger than my mum, so he was like late 70s when he died, and he died about 3 years ago. So he would have been early 80s now. So, you know, he wouldn't have been seen back then in the Caribbean to have been that. They would have just seen him as being a naughty boy or very rude and feisty, as they would say. But I would definitely order. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was so inappropriate. But now, you know, I can look at my kids and think, that's it. You know, but, you know, and the things I think as well, I mean, I look at family members and I think, you've got ADHD. But when you say, you know, if you suggest maybe you should get diagnosed, people get quite offended.
They do, they get vexed.
They get really vexed, because they almost feel it's an indictment on themselves, and they don't actually recognize it is not an indictment on yourself. If you lived in a different culture or in a different society, actually autism or ADHD or dyslexia or any of that could actually be a blessing and actually enable you to create such amazing things. But because of the society that we live in, it is a challenge, because it's not fit for you, it's fit for neurotypical people. But yeah, so no, I completely agree. You know, I think people are not honest. I have a young friend, she's like early 30s, and she thinks her daughter might be autistic. I think she's about 4, and I think she's been trying to talk to her parents about it, who are just a couple of years like older than me. They're like 5-10 years older than me, so they're in their 50s. I'm in my 40s, and she can't have that conversation.
That's sad.
Yeah, you know, they're Christians, so they're trying to suggest that she just needs to take a firmer hand with her. You know, they're not seeing the truth, you know, and it's quite isolating, because, like, you know, for me, when I first realized and was waiting for Joshua to be diagnosed, you know, my mom didn't get it for a long time. She kept saying, you know, he's just playing you around, he's just playing you up, you're not being feminine. And I'm like, no. And it was only when my great nephew, so that's my niece's son, was diagnosed, and he's more like Asperger's type, that my mom then got it. And she called it the sickness. And I had to keep saying to her, Mum, it's not a sickness.
Yeah, that's what mine sometimes.
Yeah, she said, him sickness. And I'm like, no, Mum, it's not a sickness.
It's injected.
It's a neurological development. It's not a sickness.
But you're well or sick,
Yeah.
So
yeah. I'm going to interject here because,
sorry,
and I'm going to go back to slavery, and we've got to remember only the strongest survive. So if you had any sickness or any weakness, you already know what was going to happen.
It's true.
So and we've got to say that is a form of mental slavery that is still existing. And I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to look at the work of the autistic artist. He's called a Savanac. Stephen Wiltshire. You never mentioned him.
No, as you said it, I've just remembered him. Yes.
So look at his work and how he just sees a image once and he draws it and it's accurate. And also, my final word, I keep saying final word, I know I'm terrible, the inventor of Tetra Pak. And if you think of your fruit juices and milks you can buy in the carton, not the plastic, the fruit juice you can buy in the carton, he is autistic. And look how much millions he made by inventing Tetra Pak.
Even the guy that Pokemon, I think the guy that developed Pokemon, he has ADHD.
Yes, there you are, see?
I mean, they can't prove it, but they believe that the guy that invented the Tesla, Lewis Carroll that wrote Alice in Wonderland, Benjamin Banneker, an untrained engineer that created the White House in America, black guy. There's so many out there. And the thing is, what people don't understand is that most young people with autism, there's something particular to them that only they can see and do. And actually, without autistic people, there's a lot of the inventions that we take as normal would never have been created because they tend to think outside of the box. And I think that's the thing that's the thing I'm trying to get across to my son, but he's just not seeing it because he wants to be like all his friends. And that is the reality, that they will have an insight into something that we don't even know we need because they just don't see the world through, what we would call neurotypical eyes. So yeah, definitely.
Michelle, I personally enjoy, I would definitely say that I enjoy teaching children with autism and Asperger's, drama and theatre, because they make the best actors, if I'm honest with you, because they're completely uninhibited and they know what they want and they know what they don't want. And because they have that structure, as long as you learn the structure for each child, because every child is different, they're away, and you stay within, their structure and what they what they like, what they dislike, how they like things, etc. And it's just amazing. They're really apt to taking notes, really apt, to keeping to where they need to be and what they need to say and taking direction. I find, obviously depending on where they are on the spectrum.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I've probably taught on the whole spectrum, and it's just been so enjoyable. When working creatively, because of what you've said, they think outside the box, and because when you're creative, I mean, we'll know he's a creative. We love it when something new comes out of creativity. It's like, wow, finally we've got something new. So yeah, I really enjoy teaching kids, because sometimes you have parents come in, and I've only had, obviously living in Hertfordshire, I've only had a few black parents come into drama schools because they're very expensive in Hertfordshire.
Yes.
But when they do come in, and a black parent will say to me, oh, he does have some needs. They won't even say autistic. I know what that's about. You know what that's about. He does have some needs, and they'll whisper it to me. I said, oh, great, fabulous. Yeah, we want those. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, more of those. Have you got any? Pop 2 more out. Because normally they're the first ones. If I say, oh, we're doing, I don't know, Peter Pan or whatever we're doing, and I say, who wants to be Peter? They're the first ones to put their hand up. And I'm like, great. I don't have normally with children who aren't on the spectrum, because depending on the age they are, they're still trying to find themselves, and obviously growing up is a thing. but it's just so easy. It's just so easy with create. You don't have, it's not like you're pulling water out of things, you know. It's I really enjoy it. So yeah. I did have a question for I think Sam. Sam, you there?
I'm here.
Yes. Sam,
Go on.
We need to get you platformed more with what you do, because this is just my personal view. You, Sonia, like people like you have a wealth of knowledge. I just believe you should be teaching us all to just be better. And Sonia is doing a great job. You're doing a great job. But the more I talk to you guys, every time I talk to you guys, I find out just a little bit more amazing stuff, amazing knowledge and stuff you have. So yes, and I just wanted to just reiterate that the importance. I know we've lost that, obviously, in the Black culture. We've lost that of the older generation teaching the younger generation and passing that on. But I think that's really valuable, the wealth of knowledge. And I think sometimes
that's why I have my diaries. That is where my diary comes in. My wealth of knowledge goes in those diaries. The old ways, the old and the new.
It shouldn't be, you shouldn't be all in that, should be teaching us, because we need to learn it, because, you know, we need to teach our little ones, you know. And what you know, what BVL is about that hub of bringing that knowledge together, so mums don't have to feel like they're on their own, so dads don't have to feel like they're on their own, so whoever doesn't have to feel like they're on their own. We have those who've gone through it, who've lived it, who have the knowledge. I mean, Sam has a PhD. I mean, I know some people might not be like happy about that, or that might not, but for me, that's I like to know, I like to see that. I like to say to my son, oh, there's our friend Sam, and you know what, he has a PhD, that could be you one day, you know.
I tell the people that I work with, I'm a published author. I let them know. I say, I may look like a Yaga girl. My mother and aunt would go mad. They would go mad. They would go mad.
See, Sonia, I didn't even know that. And that's what I'm talking about.
No, but I'm a published author. My work is cited by academics.
See?
So I say I'm Black, British and proud.
Right. Black History Month, you guys need to tell me the stuff you've done. Stop hiding it. Because I know, like, in our culture, I think even my own grandparents, they're just humble, isn't it? They're just humble thing. They will only say things like my grandma. I didn't find out loads of things like from her till like the latter years. I'm like, Granny, how come I didn't know this? Well, you never asked me. You never asked me. Well, how am I supposed to ask you that you used to like run the farm and you never went to school and all of this stuff? It's like, you know, well, she said but it was this humbleness with it as well. You know, there's this whole thing of bragging is a big, great thing, you know, in our culture, you know, so you wait till you're asked for the information and then you tell it, which I completely get. But some of us need the information.
I need to tell you something. You're going to think now, she's not one of us, because I spent so much time with my books and my comics, right? I'm alien to the kitchen. So when there's family events and my cousins are cooking and frying everything, the one person who's not in the kitchen, who is not invited in the kitchen, is me. And I'm proud.
But Sonia, they need somebody to eat, don't they?
Yeah, that's true. But I say to them, I can read. When it gets to any event, I can get up there and public speak for you. But don't ask me to be in the kitchen. Do not ask me. And even when it comes to family events, and you know, you've got the aunts and the cousins who will serve the food. I lasted 10 minutes serving the goat, and my aunt just looked at me in disgust. Antu Diamevi.
I know.
She took the spoon and I was relegated. So I tell you, I was relegated to the salad and the dumpling.
And the plantain.
Sam, I just want to thank you for what you've shared today as well with African culture, because there's some things. My stepfather is Ghanaian, and so I grew up with obviously the Caribbean culture, but the African culture as well, and having like lots of Nigerian friends also kind of you know, seeing the parallels with the Trinidadian culture and the Ghanaian and Nigerian culture, which is very similar. My friend I think I've told you this before, I have a friend of mine that really does believe that I'm a Yoruba girl. Because literally everything, if she tells me any bit of good news, I want to dance, I want to have a party, you know.
Well, that's awesome.
That's all it is. She's like, there's no way you're Igbo, because Igbos are very, you know, conservative and everything. But Trinidadians, we will party from morning all the way through.
I'm the Igbo.
I definitely feel like I'm Yoruba, because I constantly have a joy in my heart about everything. Even when times are hard, I just like, you know what, just keep smiling through it. Yeah. So I really want to just find out more about the culture, that African culture that's been brought over to the West and kind of displayed, but not displayed in the right format, because I think that's really important to our culture and our stories, because if it's being displayed in museums not in the correct format, it loses its meaning in a way, and it becomes,
story.
Yeah, and it becomes something else. I was talking to Sonia about food, and when the reason why the Black community specifically gets so particular about food, i.e. quote unquote jerk rice, okay, no one gets
jollof rice.
Don't in any social Black situation. And the reason why is because food for us is not just nourishment.
Nope.
The story, every seasoning, and how you cook it, how you wash the rice, everything is something. If I was washing rice when I was little, okay, I couldn't just wash the rice. Someone said wash the rice, to wash it. There was a way I had to do it.
You had to stretch the rice, stretch the rice.
Yes. Yeah, and when you grate the coconut to get the milk out, there's a way to squeeze it. There's a way to do it. And if my grandma caught me doing it the wrong way, she would get the wooden spoon and hit me.
Yes.
Exactly.
Child protection. We're in England. This was in Trinidad.
It didn't kill you.
Don't forget the time. Don't forget the time.
Yeah, and she would take it off me. So there was a way. So when I think that people don't understand that story. When you change it, it's like pulling a page out of a book.
It is.
So it's like going to a bookstore. You're really excited about this book. Oh, Harry Potter's books come out. I've waited a whole year. Harry Potter. You go and spend £15 on this book, and there's 3 pages pulled out. Okay, it's only 3 pages, but hang on a minute. Those are really 3 important pages. You know, and then you're so annoyed. So that we don't have much. Okay. We're here to talk about disparities, etc. Obviously, we've heard stories today, but
to me, it's up to us to start to create the positive image that is in our community. And I mean, for example, like Val was saying, hidden talents. I mean, to me, it's not hidden. It's because they've not seen it. And because they've decided to be selective in the scene, okay? And I mean, for example, when I was talking to the person at British Museum that I used to run the workshop for, I said, look here, I do not want your money. It's not the money that I'm here for. I want to let people know,
educate
where I am from. Because by knowing where I am from, then they will start to know me.
Yeah.
Because people think, I mean, like I told you before, that when I first came to Stevenage, people will say, oh, is there any, where do you live? So I said, no, where do I live? I live on trees. I jump from one to another, because that's the way we live. But then when I show them picture of Kaduna, picture of Lagos, picture of Ibadan, they say, where is that? I say, oh, that's where I came from. They say, so, but you're telling us you jump from tree to tree. So that to me, people just want the, how can I put it? The nostalgic view of Black people. And that's why they do not ask us. They instead of asking, they tell us where we are from. Are you from Nigeria? Are you from Africa? Do you know this person?
I get that.
I used to work with the person when the person really is from Zimbabwe. I'm from Nigeria, and the person is from Zimbabwe. That's almost the same distance to England.
So I get that.
You try and tell a Scottish person they're English, and they'll have you.
Yeah,
exactly.
The Irish person
will have you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing. And you know, if something ever happened like that, I mean, when I first came, you know, to live here, I was just labelled as Jamaican. No one knew what Trinidad was. And even when I said, "Oh, Trinidad," they were like, "Oh, that's Jamaican, isn't it?" I said, "Well, it's near Jamaica." "Oh, yeah. Well, we'll just call you Jamaican."
It's easy. Oh, that gets me.
Okay.
Sorry, I have a question for Michelle. Who is Akanbi?
You're on mute, Michelle.
On mute, Michelle.
I'm always doing that. My husband.
Okay.
My husband's as Yoruba.
Okay, you see.
The Yorubas are in tonight.
There you are. The Igbos, the Yoruba. I tell you, we're here. You better be watching the athletics tomorrow. I'm going to ask you all a big, big favour as an artist for remembrance. So I'm going to do a poppy installation. And as we all know, from dust we are created, so dust we will return. So I've decided that these poppies that I'm designing will be, when it gets wet, they will return. When I say return, they will go back to what they were before, nothing. So I'm creating dissolvable poppies, and I'm going to be putting them on cemeteries, weaving them in cemeteries where the Commonwealth soldiers are buried.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to ask each of you if you can replicate and help me do this, because we need to say thank you to those, who gave the ultimate sacrifice. And it's very important because we all know that there was a ritual.
Sonia, what do you want us to do?
I'm going to be sending you these dissolvable poppies, and I want you to put them on the gates of your cemetery, because in there somewhere they will be buried a Commonwealth soldier. We don't know where they are, they're scattered all over, but just to leave them on the gate, and when it gets wet, they will dissolve.
Okay.
And that's the fabric I am getting.
Okay.
It's dissolvable poppies. And I'm going to have a leaf, and it's 11 o'clock. It's symbolic, because at 11 o'clock, that's when the war ceased.
Yeah.
I want you to you can just place this one poppy on the gate and go away, because when it rains, it will dissolve. And that's what I want, because it's just like life. From dust we were created, and dust we will return. And that's the same thing about the poppies, because this is what I tell our young men and women, the ritual, the history. And I concentrate at the moment on the mourning period. When a person dies, how important it is for the people to come round to the house, and why we offer food and drink. And on the symbolic, on the night, it's the ninth after death, because that is when we believe the person ascends to heaven. And then on the 10th day, they are buried. Okay? And also I say children think they're do-rags. They're not do-rags. We wrap our hair. It's a sign of respect. So I am teaching the old ways. My mother and my aunts will all be thinking, what's happened to this woman? Because when I was younger, I just chose not to listen or did not want to. But I just think that is so very important. And that's what, yes, Michelle?
No, it's me, Michaela. I was thinking, for 2 questions. How many are you having made? And secondly,
I'm making them. All you'll get is either one, whatever you want. You tell me how many Commonwealth cemeteries or how many cemeteries in your area that you can go to.
Well, I was actually I'm connected with the area whatever for Scouts for Hertfordshire.
Yeah.
And obviously, I don't know if you've ever been to a Scouts march. They obviously
I have. Yeah.
And I would like to, maybe we can arrange a meeting so that some of these can be distributed to the Scouts, so the kids can actually have some of these to also remember the Commonwealth contribution as well, because Scouts really is one of the building blocks of England, and those children that come along there is a great opportunity for them to note, their friends, didn't just come over as slaves or came over to take their parents' jobs or whatever. They also were there, and
yes.
I think a lot of my son's friends just feel that, my son is just there, just doing it because he has to.
Yes.
He feel because of his brown skin that he actually contributed to what he's marching about.
So for me, I've ordered the dissolving fabric already.
Yeah.
I'm doing what all artists do. I'm in the research stage. I'm seeing which paints work best, and then I will order, and then I'll get them distributed to yourselves. Okay. And basically, a poppy is whatever the children. I'm not going to be religious and say it's got.
Sonia, we lost you.
Oh, I'm still here.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just saying art comes from the heart, and the children can, and I believe the children can create anything that looks like a poppy. It's their interpretation. I'm not going to instill what a poppy looks like from my point of view. I'm going to say to the children, you design your poppy, but what I would like it is that you place it, or an adult places it on the gate of the cemetery so it dissolves. Okay, and it's like, from dust we were born, from dust we shall return. And that's what will happen. It's symbolic.
I think that's great. And definitely, Amy, I think it's something that we'll definitely want to platform.
Yeah. And Sam, I'd like you to help.
Yes.
I only got 8 of your questions right, but hey, come on, help me.
What do you want help with?
I want you to help spread the message, and you can do it in your end of the world.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, but you can do it from whatever, as an artist, fellow artist, you can create something your way. And I just felt
the problem is time.
You can do one poppy. That's all. You don't have to do an installation. You can just do one.
Do you want us to draw a poppy, design a poppy?
All you can do is a circle.
Okay.
A circle. Okay. And then you turn it into a poppy.
Okay. I'll get my son to do it because he's got an art assignment. So that could be his art assignment.
I mean, I've worked with 3 circles. I've twisted at the center. And I've created the poppy, and then I'm thinking now, how am I going to create the stem? Because I want the stem to dissolve. So I thought about plaiting the same fabric to create the stem.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, because it's got to be biodegradable.
Yeah.
So I'm now experimenting with the color red, because red is for the blood.
Yeah.
And green is for the green of the land.
Yeah.
Okay. There you are, Sam. There's a method to my madness.
I'm definitely interested. Definitely be interested, because we're all about biodegradable and saving the trees, the animals, the ants, and everything else in between. Will know, won't you, Will? Hitchin's a bit like that as well.
I want Will to help me, Michelle, Amy, Jonathan, where are you?
Okay. Sonia, sorry to go off point. Did you actually see that play, Nine Night? when it came out a few years ago?
Yes, I did. Of course I did.
I'm here. Don't worry, I haven't gone anywhere.
Of course I did. Oh, Michelle, I did hear it. Yes, I did. I've got it taped. I kept it.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm old school, girl. I'm old school. I'm only.
VHS or Betamax.
And I Betamax. Oh, leave me be.
Oh, have you got one? I haven't seen one of those in years.
No, I actually gave it to a museum, which I did have a Betamax though.
Wow.
I did, but yes, I did. But I just feel the heritage is so important, and that's why the poppy installation is so important for the Afro-Caribbeans to let the communities know that the soldiers from the Caribbean fought in the First and Second World War. They're just not new. They just didn't turn up here, and they answered in the Second World War. They answered Lord Kitchener's call for help.
Have you read Black British History by I can't say his name. Can't pronounce his name.
David, what's his name?
Yeah.
I can't pronounce his last name, and yeah, I know. I've read it. Yep.
Yeah, I mean it's really good. I mean, I did it. My son goes to a supplementary school where they it was on the reading list, and he hates reading, but we did read some of it, and I just thought it was really, really good. And I think one of the things that's been useful now is that Black histories, horrible histories, had a Black horrible histories. So a lot of the things that we touched on in the book, like John Blankenson, there.
Yes.
Yeah, all of that, what they read in the book was then reflected for them on the big screen, so they could see, oh, we did that. Oh, look. Or even so it's really, so no, I completely agree, and I think it's very useful for our children to know that they didn't just come with the Windrush, but actually we've been here longer than that, and we've actually made a contribution to the British society, and that they would not be who it is without the Black members of society, whether they're African, Caribbean, Asian, whatever. So so definitely
2 years ago,
agree with you.
2 years ago in my school, I got because I refused to do Black History. History Month. I mean, I said, if you want me to really do anything about Black history, then it has to be something that cut across the whole year.
Same here.
So
not October.
So so I said, if I'm going to do it, then I'm going to base it on Black people that died during First World War and Second World War. So that's what we did. So the children made a plan that the whole school then came to have a look at, because they decided to really, instead of just doing a cenotaph, they did a big plaque for these people, for the people that died, and they got all their pictures, images, and added it to it. So which was really meaningful to them, rather than just the marching at the cenotaph, and that's it. You've forgotten them.
And also, because you all live near Bletchley Park. Everybody knows about Alan Turing and the Enigma code, but you got to also remember that those who helped Alan Turing break the Enigma code were soldiers, sailors, and airmen from the Caribbean.
Yeah.
They were mathematicians, and the people have forgotten about them. You do not see their pictures, but they helped them. They helped Alan Turing break the Enigma code. Otherwise, the war would not have been won. So please, we need to tell these to our young men and women. I don't call them children, but young men and women.
That's why I'm really pushing for the Black to be in the British curriculum.
It is now from September.
No, it's not. People are still just only doing history, and we are not just made up of history.
Well, we've come a long way because
we are made up of scientists, mathematicians, and all the different disciplines.
Yes,
so why are you only telling my history?
Madam C.J. Walker invented the hair straighteners, but you don't see that in the papers or any history books.
Yeah, so that's that's what I'm pushing for in my school, and also in the NEU.
That's a really good point, because when as I said before, I taught psychology, criminology, and sociology and politics. And I remember when I was teaching A-level sociology, one of the things that we were doing during Black History Month is that I would actually go out and dig up the Black sociologists and actually look at that. Because you know, they did not know, you know, they didn't know, for instance, that Stuart Hall was a Black sociologist. They just knew they studied him, but they didn't know he was Black. Or we looked at the African American ones, and I just thought it was really useful because they tended to see sociology in particular, because that was the subject I was teaching, as very white, you know, very white male, and it was really useful to say, well, actually, this guy was a Black guy, or this was a Black woman, or she was Asian, or he was Asian, because they just kind of thought, they didn't see pictures of the sociologists, they didn't always have images, but they heard the name and they knew the studies, but they didn't know the person. So, you know, I completely agree with what you're saying, Sam, that there were so many great thinkers that have really impacted not just, like we're saying, history, but the sciences or the social sciences, or even psychology, or even criminology, or different areas of learning that people are not aware of because they have never looked at them, because nobody has taken the time to say, do you know about this person? Do you realize the person that invented, say, the traffic light is Black? They don't know that. So, you know, you're right. It can't just be history. It has to be everything, because we are in everything, you know. So no, I completely.
And it will enrich everybody's learning, not just Black children.
No, definitely. Because my son,
not just Black children, is it? Is the whole world?
Yeah, because the thing is, it gives them
history.
Yeah, and it gives them a more realistic
the reason why we labeled it as Black is because it's like, I keep saying to people, it's like if history was a mother and she had different children. She had American Indian history, she had Brazilian history, she had European history, Indian history, Chinese history. You've forgotten
world history.
What about her Black child? Why did you forget? Why are you forgetting her? A mother never forgets her child.
No.
You know, history is all the children, because it's our history. It's a human condition. You're forgetting one of the children.
But even though it's not just for you know, even though it shouldn't just be called Black history, or it's not just for Black people, one of the things that I found with my boys during lockdown, we did a lot, because they really like STEM, so they're really into the sciences and computing and into maths. So what they really love, and hence why I know about Benjamin Banneker. So one of the things that they really love was when we did this little book. It was an African American book, but we did some research on certain inventors and scientists that created certain things that if they didn't create them, we wouldn't even be able to function, like the light bulb, who were, you know, the filament. I can't remember his name now, the Black guy. And for them, it was so empowering to them to know that, you know,
and the
all these things that we take, all these things that we take for granted, a Black person invented them. And had they not invented them, we wouldn't have the society or any of the technology, even like computing. You know, they love computers. You know, the guy that invented that, you know, without all mobile phone, none of that would be here without a Black woman or man. And I think it's really interesting and empowering for those children to see that, you're right, not just history, but to see it as, if that's their passion, science or maths or whatever, you know, and to know that actually we have impacted the world. And it, you know, it isn't just a white Eurocentric viewpoint, even though that's what you're taught. There's actually so much more to it. So I completely agree with that.
From September, we have come a bit of a way, because from September this year, that all hairdressing students will be taught Afro-Caribbean hair. It's on the curriculum.
Finally, I've been saying that for years. It's ridiculous that
it's from the September they'll have to do it. It's not going to be an optional module. It is compulsory. Requirement.
I'm glad because
I've got locks. I'm fine. I'm not going in.
One hair type. Ridiculous.
I've got locks, so I'm not going there anyway.
Oh, that's one of my pet peeves, that I have to pop my head through the window. Do you do my son's hair and point to his hair and then have them feel his hair like he's some sort of exhibit?
No, I won't have that.
Ridiculous.
No, well, from September they're all doing it. They're all converting their curriculum to include and to encompass Afro-Caribbean hairdressing.
Yeah.
But what about barbering? Are they going to be doing the barbering as well then?
That all of it, girl, all of it.
There's a barber in Letchworth. He's not white. He may be Turkish mix, possibly. He's very good, and all the Black parents or the parents that raising Black children or children of mixed heritage go there, and I don't know how he trains. And a white gentleman did my son's hair, and it was the best afro, as good as the ones if I went to went to Trinidad and had his hair cut. And he was shaping it well. It wasn't like he was like, oh no, curls. He literally did a smooth, crisp cut. And the guy was young. He was like about, I don't know, 18, 19.
I've seen the actual worth of the black pound, how much we spend on black hair.
On black hair, they're getting it now. They're getting it now.
We spend not millions, but billions.
We do. Billions. And some say it's rising into the trillions.
Yes, we do. Because I know that I've got friends whose children go back to school. The mothers spend up to £200-300 to have their hair braided just before school.
Easy. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to love and leave you all. I just want to say, look after yourselves, everybody. Keep yourselves safe. And I look forward to working with you all again. And in August, I'm going to go. I'm going to have a little drink, and it's not a tea or coffee. Okay, so good night, all. I will. Good night, all. Keep yourself safe, okay?
Thank you.
Bye, Sonia.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, Sonia. Bye.
Bye.
It's over to you, Amy, isn't it? It's 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Sorry. Get my papers out. Thank you to everyone who attended and contributed today. And just a note I didn't mention earlier, we're also doing an accountability dossier, which kind of will encompass everything that we've learned from all of these meetings, all of the contributions, and put it into a dossier which we will be giving to institutions, businesses, organisations, so that they can take those teachings forward. So yeah, there'll be more information about that on our page. Thank you to Michelle for speaking, and to Sam and Sonia, who's not here anymore, but still. And to Will for monitoring the chat and the hands up, but I don't think people really use the hands up function, so Will hasn't been that busy tonight.
My pleasure. I did nothing tonight. I was just enjoying the conversation.
The minutes and the recordings of this meeting will be sent to you, provided that we have your email. We look forward to seeing you at the next meeting in August. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for coming. Good night.
Night.
Bye.